Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nick Talks. This week's amazing guest is a returning guest again. This is turning into a weekly thing now. Me and that Preston journalist. So, welcome, Ash, to the show.
Hi, Nick. Thank you very much for having me on again.
No, you're welcome. I enjoyed our chat last time, and so did the viewers. I think the first one got over 10,000 views, which for my channel is a hell of a lot.
Good. It's good to see people enjoying it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump straight into it. So obviously we talk about politics when me and you get together, and that's all me and you ever talk about anyway. But let's jump straight into it. How do you think Keir Starmer's doing? What's going on? Is he? We talked last about he is in trouble. Is that continuing? Is the light at the end of the tunnel?
I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. If anything, we've seen the freebie scandal continue to grow. We've seen the latest revelations, of course, with Taylor Swift. The fact that he actually met her, the fact she contacted Sue Gray, or her mother, contacted Sue Gray directly, and then all of a sudden she's getting a royal cavalcade, if you will, to take her from her hotel through to Wembley. We've seen Starmer's poll ratings drop to the worst of any prime minister this country has had in the first 100 days. I don't see any, and another manifesto pledge broken with the national insurance rises when they said they weren't going to do that. That is now going to happen. What they've tried to do this week, of course, is when they had their investment summit, as they called it, and now they're trying to brag people and say that they've managed to get 38,000 new jobs, and I think it was 63 billion in new investment in the UK. But people have been poring over these figures now, as they do. And it turns out that a lot of these jobs it says it's going to provide actually aren't going to be provided. What it is, to be fair, it will actually keep some jobs in this country, but it won't provide 38,000 new jobs. And a lot of the investment that they're saying was secured at this summit was actually secured under the previous Tory government. So, for example, your carbon capture stuff, your the data center, what they call it now, AI center, whatever it is, it's going to be in is it Teesside or something like that up in the northeast. That was all done by the previous Conservative government. 12 billion with Iberola, I think they're called. That was done under the previous Conservative government. Wind farms contracts, that was done under the previous Conservative government. There's really very little that's actually come out of this investment summit that is actually done by this Labour government at all. So if you can see some light at the end of the tunnel, I think you're a better man than me.
To be fair to Labour, every government will take the credit for the successes laid down by the previous government. Every government does that. They will take credit for everything, just like they're taking credit now for a drop in interest rates. And they'll take credit. They'll always take credit for something if it's positive. They don't care who's done it, but they'll take credit for it. The investments is a strange one because they didn't invite the richest man in the world. The owner of Twitter, Elon Musk, didn't invite him at all. And then one of their ministers, I think it's the minister for, I forgot her name now and position, but she then started insulting P&O ferries.
Oh, Louise Haig's transport, isn't she?
And now they're threatening not to, or they're delaying an investment of £1 billion. To be fair, if they've got £1 billion to invest, it will probably go ahead anyway, because it's taken them years to organise that, raise the capital, work out how they're spending it. But the fact you can have a government of the UK slagging off a multinational company who wants to invest in the UK is just student union politics. It's a cut off your nose to spite your face.
But it wasn't just her either. I mean, yes, she was the one who has become the main story, if you will. But Angela Rayner said the same thing about this company. Keir Starmer said the same thing about this company. To quote Keir Starmer, he said it makes him sick to the stomach that what they call DP World or P&O Ferries, whichever one you want to refer to, were doing this to workers. And, you know, to an extent, I have a bit of sympathy for that. But it's okay when you're in opposition to slag these people off. But then all of a sudden, you're begging them to invest in the country. And in this case, invest in what is a container port, isn't it? Expanding the container port inside London. But you simply can't do that. And then as the CEO of that company turned around and said they weren't going to attend this summit any longer and they weren't going to invest the £1 billion, all of a sudden, number 10 are on the phone, the Prime Minister's on the phone to this company, and lo and behold, they changed their minds. Now, I'd like to know, and I'm sure the public would like to know as well, what have they had to promise DP World or P&O Ferries to actually get this investment back on the table again? Are they going to get are they going to get subsidies? Are they going to get, God knows what? They've not come back to the table for no reason. They had the government by the balls and they've just probably taken them to the cleaners just so they could announce one minor success. Because in the grand scheme of things, £1 billion, I know it's a lot of money, of course, but it's not, groundbreaking sums of money in terms of government.
No, it's not. And what we need to think about really is, do we have any right? Well, does a government, we do because we're individuals and we can have our own opinions, but does a government have the right to criticise a business that was doing everything legally? May not have been ethically, that down to our own opinion, but they didn't break any laws. It was all legal. If a government doesn't like the way businesses work, the simple answer, you change the law when you're in power.
Yeah, exactly. And, a lot of people don't want to talk about this, but the Labour Party actually did a massive fire and rehire project themselves when they were in opposition. So it's completely hypocritical for them to turn around and say that somebody else can't do it, a private business, but it's okay for a political party to do it, one that rails against any sort of big business or anyone who's successful at all, which is exactly what the Labour Party seem to enjoy doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's an article the other day, something like 200 Labour MPs at the moment employ staff on the contracts the Labour Party have said they're going to abolish. So why did those MPs employ those staff on those contracts anyway? Why haven't they changed those contracts? If they're not good enough for everybody, why are Labour MPs? And it's not their money, it's only expenses. It's our money, it's not their money. So why are they still using those contracts that they're saying are evil, that exploit people? Why are they using them?
Well, exactly. It's one rule for them, one rule for us, isn't it?
Hypocrisy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And what made it worse for me with that Louise Haigh is that Starmer came out immediately after and said that Rayner's, a spokesperson for Number 10 came out and said that Rayner and Haig's comments didn't reflect the view of the government. Yet it was found out afterwards that the careless words Louise Haigh used, in fact, they weren't careless, they were completely deliberate, but she had to get it cleared by Number 10 before she said that, and it was cleared by Number 10. She was allowed to make this speech and grandstand to the rest of the country, showing how virtuous she was. So Number 10 did clear it. They did sanction these words. And then all of a sudden, they get scared because it's putting off investment, which is exactly what this government are doing now, including Rachel Reeves, by the way, who's a disaster of a chancellor, who's going to absolutely destroy businesses by the time this budget comes around. It's quite fitting that it's taking place the day before Halloween because it is going to be an absolute nightmare for this economy.
Yeah, I would just make one point there, which is I don't think they backtracked because they're scared of losing £1 billion of investment. I don't think they care. They backtracked because, again, they had negative publicity. And everything now is about containing negative publicity. I think if that got signed off by Number 10, which it probably did, then they don't care about £1 billion because virtue signalling is more important than £1 billion and so many jobs. But what's more important than virtue signalling is having good press, because we might lose the next election. We might not be in office in 6 months' time. Kier Starmer, as I keep saying, will be out by Christmas. So it's hypocrisy at the worst level. It's not about us. It's not about them having morality. It's about them just wanting the gravy train to continue that bit longer.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, yeah, I'm with you. Starmer will be gone fairly soonish, but the government, unfortunately, or the Labour Party, as we're stuck with now, they're going to be in power for the next. I said 4 years last time, but you could even see it going the full term, 5 years. Unfortunately, as I think I said previously, the majority is just too big for anybody to get rid of. It would have to be something cataclysmic to bring down a party that's got a majority of 170 odd.
As Harold Wilson once said, events, dear boy, events. Something will happen in, I think, the next 2 years, if not sooner. An international event, an international incident, something at home, something we cannot foresee, something that's never happened before. will force a general election. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure how it's going to happen. But you're right. Me and you can't force it. The public can't force it. The Tories can't force a general election. It doesn't matter how bad they get. Can't force a general election. Something will happen that will put it all into disarray, which will split the Labour Party in half, and eventually they'll have to go back to the public.
I think there's a lot of civil wars going on anyway inside the party. I think that's fairly obvious. But again, is it a big enough civil war to bring down a prime minister who's got a majority of 170 something?
Not yet.
Not at this point, no. And it's going to take a lot of by-election defeats, which I can see coming, by the way. And when you've got a new parliament, there's always people in there, more than you think, actually, who've been up to no good somewhere or another, and that tends to come to light sooner or later. So there will be by-elections that come up fairly quickly. And you can see Labour, losing those as well. And you can see Reform, depending on where they are in the country. I could probably see Reform gaining some, maybe the Tories gaining some, maybe even the Lib Dems and the Greens gaining some. But it's just such a mountain to climb to get rid of these people. And the event that would have to take place, it would have to be one of the biggest political scandals this country's ever seen, maybe the biggest. It would have to be another expensive scandal times 10 or something to get rid of a government that's, to get rid of this party, not get rid of the government. The government can be got rid of quite easily, I think. Starmer's surrounded himself by people that want his job. And that's what a lot of them do, of course. So you've already got people like Wes Streeting, Angela Rayner, Rachel Reeves that have been on manoeuvres. You can see them speaking. Now, none of them are up to the job, of course, but they're all out there speaking like they are going to be the next leader of the party. They can see that Starmer's damaged. They can see that Starmer's weak. There's people briefing inside number 10 against the guy. The amount of information leaking out of there at the moment is absolutely unbelievable. And Angela Rayner, who I have no time for whatsoever, has been used as a scapegoat by Starmer repeatedly to deliver bad news, such as housing targets, which have already been announced to be having some sort of refresh because they've already failed 3 months in. As Nigel Farage pointed out, to keep up with the levels of immigration in this country, you'd have to build a house every 2 minutes, which is impossible to do. And people aren't simply going to give up their green spaces and countryside and things just because Angela Rayner wants to build another council estate, which is ultimately her aim. But she will be the one, if anybody, to bring Starmer down. Because, I actually thought, I thought she had more political nous, actually, than what she's got. But she hasn't. She's just been happy to take any job that Starmer's given her and then completely been thrown under the bus by him. She's actually got less political intelligence than he has, and that's saying something.
But just like both those politicians, there's people behind them. She's a front for the type of Labour government certain people want. She's always been a front for that. She's not a leader. She's not a visionary. She's just a front, just like Keir Starmer is. Here's an example of what could bring this Labour government down. Middle Eastern war. All kicks off more in the Middle East. Israel sends tanks into Lebanon, into Jordan, into the West Bank, and Gaza. Americans join the Israelis. Trump wins the election and says, I don't deal with the Labour government in the UK. I don't deal with them at all. The Labour Party splits because Keir Starmer wants to support Israel. His party wants to go to war against Israel. It could take something like that, which could easily start any day now. And it'll be something that size, that's unexpected, that we have no control over, which will bring down this government.
That's a fair point about the Middle Eastern war. I've made a similar point about Trump actually myself as well. He spoke about Starmer the other week and he said, he was being polite, obviously, but he said he's done very well to win the election. He seems quite popular. Like, Trump's obviously not very in touch with the British people on that. But fair enough, he did well to win the election. Trump was being very polite about him. But is he really going to deal with some half-wit like David Lammy when he turns up there after calling Trump a neo-Nazi, fascist sociopath or something like that? Trump should, and probably knowing Trump probably will, turn around and say, don't even think of sending him over here because there's no way that I'll be dealing with him. And who can blame him? Why would you? David Lammy is the biggest embarrassment to this country at the moment, and that's saying something. He's absolute calamity. Everywhere he goes, every time he opens his mouth, he just makes an absolute mess of everything.
And when it comes to the UK and America, who do you think needs the other the most?
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, it's all stacked in one way, isn't it? It's all stacked one
Of
way.
course it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that happening. And what else is going to damage Labour is, I've said this before, chatting to you, Nigel Farage will be the unofficial American ambassador for the UK.
That would be ultimate humiliation, wouldn't it, for Starmer? If he had to, I mean, even if it was unofficial, you'd still have Farage going over there doing UK business or doing business on behalf of the UK, sorry, with Donald Trump because he won't speak to Starmer. That's beyond humiliation.
Like, imagine him coming back, stand up in Parliament and going, I've just secured a deal with the Americans. I've emailed it to Keir Starmer. All he has to do is sign it. But I'll tell you now, it's a fantastic deal. And then release it to the press. And then what does Keir Starmer do? He either signs this good deal or he rejects it because it's come from Nigel Farage. That humiliates him. These are the situations that a politician doesn't want to be in.
But Farage is the most dangerous person inside Parliament politically. I mean, he's the Reform are the biggest. They may be a very small party at the moment, but they are the biggest threat to Labour inside Parliament at the moment, without a doubt. They're the only opposition, to be quite honest with you. There's nobody else. The Tories are in chaos at the moment. I don't see any end to that anytime soon. When's the leadership contest due to end? Is it middle of November? It's so self-indulgent and it's taken so long that people have lost interest. No one gives a toss who's going to win this leadership contest. And I used to be a Tory member, and I don't care.
Well, that's a good segue into my next question, next discussion point. The Tory leadership. It's down to the final two, Robert Jenrick and Badenoch, Kemi Badenoch. Before I give you my opinion, what's your opinion on both the candidates?
Kemi Badenoch, I do see as a proper Tory. However, certain things have come to light, which you'd expect to since she started running the contest, where it shows that she's celebrating winning votes in Parliament to get more immigration into this country, more benefits for immigrants that come into this country. And I'm afraid that's not going to play very well with the membership. Robert Jenrick is a complete Tory wet, One Nation Tory. He's basically a Lib Dem, or he has been up until this point. He seemed to have some sort of conversion when he realised that Rishi Sunak was doomed, and he resigned as immigration minister because it was his peak resignation time. He thought, right, I've got a chance now. I can take the issue that's top of the polls, which is migration to this country, is now top of the polls. And I can make Rishi Sunak look stupid. He's already doomed. And I can have my run at the leadership by doing a less, if I messed it up, by promoting less immigration into this country. And I can talk like a Tory. But I don't believe Jenrick either. I have very little faith in either of the two candidates. And I'm not sure either of them are going to win around anybody in any Tory members at all, to be honest with you. They might get some back. I mean, we have seen the Tories climbing the polls slightly. One poll had them level with Labour on 27%. But I don't see Badenoch or Jenrick winning an election.
I agree. I don't think they'll fight the next general election. I think both of them will be gone by then as leader. Whoever takes over now is an interim leader, basically. They're going to be sacrificed to try to unite the party. That's what happened. The last huge defeat for the Tories when Blair came into office. We had a leader every couple of years, it seems. The next leader of the Tory party who will win a general election will be someone you may have heard of it, but will be someone we've not heard of. The general public would not have heard of their name now. It'll be someone fairly new, someone who's not tainted with 14 years of Tory rule. It has to be someone with a fresh idea, with no baggage, who unites the country, who unites the two parts of the Tory party. It will not be the two candidates at the moment. They will just get the Tories over the next difficult couple of years. I agree with your points on both candidates. Robert Jenrick is either a liar or is that a conversion. And if he's a liar, I don't want him. And do I want to take the chances at this miracle conversion over 12 months? And now he sounds like the Tory we always wanted them to be.
Yeah.
And because he's in a nutshell, I think he's lying. I think he's taken an opportunity to improve his chances to become prime minister. I think he's lying. He may not be, but I think he's lying. Kemi Badenoch, I've chatted to a couple of times several years ago. I like her on many of the policies. The question for me is, do we want an African as prime minister? And I think the answer is no. I don't see her as British. I see her as an immigrant. She sees herself as an immigrant, even though she was born here. She was born here. Her mum came over here to have her, and then all moved back to Nigeria straight away. She was raised in Nigeria till she was 16. So I've got real doubts over her, not commitment to the country, but I think we've had enough of diversity as our strength. Diversity is not our strength. And again, some of the things that have come out on her about immigration. I mean, she's good on the woke stuff, on challenging that agenda, but we need more than that. She wants more immigration. There's lots of her policies that I'm not too keen on, but on other things she's really strong on. So I would vote for neither of them if I was going to vote Tory.
Who do you think is going to win then? Question for you.
I think Jenrick's going to pull it off.
Yeah, I do. I think Kemi Badenoch gets herself into too many tight spots, especially when she's talking about social issues. Like you said, going against the woke agenda and that, great. She is good at that, you're right. But unfortunately, sometimes she gets bogged down in silly issues and it just annoys people. When she was talking about maternity pay the other week, I mean, why get bogged down in something like that in a leadership contest? Just talk about the main issues that your membership, which is dwindling as it is, actually want to hear. Talk about Tory issues, which is what Jenrick, to be fair to him, has got spot on all the way through. He's been talking like Margaret Thatcher when he used to be more like Theresa May. I mean, like you said, it's one hell of a conversion, but it will work, and I think it will see more of the line.
I think for people who don't know, these two Tory politicians have been selected to be the final two, and it's a Tory members now who vote on who becomes the next leader of the Tory party. So no one else has a say. Tory supporters, Tory members over the last 14 years have shown me that if you've got a good enough lie, they'll get behind it. That's why I think Jenrick will win, because he's got the best lies at the moment. It doesn't matter if we think the lies or not, because we all think politicians are lying to us all the time, and most of them always are. But I think he's got the best lies. I don't believe him for 1 second, but he's got the best lies.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I mean, to be fair to Tory party members, they haven't got a great choice, have they? And they didn't really have a great choice from the first six.
No.
I mean, if I was still a Tory member, I'd have probably been voting for a Priti Patel or a Suella Braverman.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, then the MPs made sure they went out pretty damn quickly. And then what you have left is four, should we call them moderates? Tom Tugendhat is a complete leftist. Badenoch, she's probably on the right of politics just about. Jenrick, as we said, has always been on the left, really. I didn't believe for a second. And James Cleverly was on the left as well. James Cleverly I met him once. He's actually a very likeable person. I like James Cleverly, but he is not strong enough leadership material. So it was good that he went, but it's no surprise to me that the MPs wanted James Cleverly to win. And he got a bit too big for his boots, didn't he, by allowing votes to go to other people and actually managed to knock himself out, which was unbelievable. They have denied that, but I've heard reports that it was actually true. They were lending votes to make sure that he went up against the right person.
Oh, yeah, because if he knew he was going to come first and come to the last two, he wanted to make sure he had the weakest opposition in the final two. So it made sense to do that, but things can backfire, and it backfired on him. Going back to the two people you said you'd like to have been in the race, Priti Patel and Suella Braverman, completely agree. Their vision for the country is out there. They've been talking about it for years. We know where they stand. Yep. They've not changed their minds over several years. They're both committed to this country, raised in this country. Yeah, I would have. I'd have had either one of them.
Well, they were the only Tories in the race. There was nobody else in there. They are actually genuinely conservative. As you said, they've never changed their minds on anything. It actually astounds me that Suella Braverman, especially, is still in the Conservative Party. I was kind of hoping as well that she would have defected by now to Reform UK. She's going to keep her seat regardless. She's She's popular in her constituency, as is Priti Patel. But Suella Braverman is probably not going to get in a cabinet ever again because the Tory party has moved away from her to the left. And she's never going to be able to be Conservative leader because she'll never galvanise enough support from the current crop of Tory MPs. So, yes, she ran for leadership, but she didn't have a hope in hell of winning it. So she may as well go to Reform UK and try and get some momentum behind that party. It's just if she'll toe the line or not, of course. She's a big personality, as is Nigel Farage. Does Farage want another big personality in there? Debatable.
I think she's playing the long game. The long game for her is the Tory party is over for at least 2-3 years. I only stood for leadership because I had to. I'm glad nobody wanted me because it's a poison chalice. I'm going to sit on the back benches for a couple of years. I'm going to let the Tories go down the polls, be beaten more until they cry out for what I know they want, which is me. And I'll be waiting in the wings to take over once the party catches up to where I am. I think she's playing the long game. If not, you're right, she would have jumped to Reform. Jumping to Reform would be a long shot for her. It's a long shot staying in the Tory party, but I can actually see a way for her to get power and become leader and prime minister in the Tory party. The Tory party is not over yet. It may be in a couple of years' time, but it's not over yet. Joining Reform could be the end of it. She knows that. So I think she may end up joining Reform if this doesn't work out in a couple of years. But at the moment, she's playing a long game.
It's a clever thing to do. If you're right and she is doing that, it's a clever thing to do. I mean, I honestly don't see a way back for her to become Conservative Party leader. I don't see the party moving back to the right, not in any substantial way anyway. They might pretend to. They might put a manifesto together that says they're going to do all these things, but they never do. And the biggest problem for the Conservatives, of course, not just Suella Braverman, but the Conservatives as a whole, is the fact that no one's listening. Right? No, Labour are just as unpopular as they are, fair enough. In fact, probably more unpopular in many cases. But unfortunately for the Tories, they've lied to people for 14 years. They did absolutely nothing. They managed to keep winning elections because half the time Labour were in disarray with people like Corbyn in charge and Ed Miliband in charge, complete no-hopers. And then people just simply had enough and they allowed Labour in, they allowed Starmer in, not because they were any good, just because the Tories were a complete and utter freefall. And you said on our previous episode that Boris Johnson was the biggest letdown you ever saw as Prime Minister, but he wouldn't have lost to Starmer. He'd have won that general election, Boris Johnson, if they'd have kept him in position. Whether it through be lying through his back teeth or whatever, Boris Johnson would have won that general election that's just gone. And Starmer wouldn't have got into power. But here we are. We are where we are, unfortunately.
I think you're probably right on that. I think Boris had nothing to offer apart from charisma. And charisma is enough to get a politician over a line when you're up against a really poor challenger, which he was with Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. So you're probably right, he would have won the election. Nothing would have improved, but he would have won the election. Cheers, Ash. Let's end that there. Cheers for coming back on, and let's do this again soon.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, Nick. Cheers.
Thank you. Did you enjoy that video? I think you did. Come on now, hit that bell, subscribe, comment. Let's build this channel. I need more followers, I need more subscribers. Be part of the journey. See you soon.